Level 1. The Corner Kid. You are 11 years old and you already know the neighborhood better than the police do. You know which cars belong and which ones don't. You know which hours the military patrols and which hours they don't bother. You know the back alleys behind the market, the hole in the fence behind the school, the exact angle from the corner store that lets you see 3 streets simultaneously without being visible from any of them. You learned this the way you learned everything useful in your life. Not in a classroom, by watching. The older guys noticed. They always notice the kids who watch. 3 weeks ago, a man you have seen around the neighborhood since you were 7 sat down next to you on the steps outside your building. He didn't threaten you. He didn't recruit you with a speech. He just asked if you wanted to make money. Then he told you how much. You did the math in your head. Your mother cleans houses 6 days a week for less than that. You said yes before he finished the sentence. Your job is simple. You stand on the corner with a prepaid phone. You watch the street. If you see a patrol car, you send one message. If you see an unmarked vehicle, you send a different message. If you see military, you send a third. You never go inside the house on the corner. You don't know what happens in there, and you don't ask. Because asking questions is how you stop getting paid and start getting problems. What you do know is that the warning you send buys the men inside 30 seconds. 30 seconds to move product through doors you are not supposed to know about, down routes you have never been shown, into the city's circulatory system, where it will travel in ways that no 11-year-old standing on a corner has any visibility into. Your job is just the 30 seconds. That's all you are right now. 30 seconds of advance notice standing on concrete in shoes that are starting to separate at the sole. The neighborhood knows what you are. Some people cross the street when they see you. An old woman who used to give you candy at Christmas looks through you now like you are a window. Your teacher at school asked if everything was okay at home last week, and you said yes, and she looked at you the way adults look at children when they know the answer is no and have decided there is nothing they can do about it. Your mother found the money. Not all of it. You were careful, but enough. She didn't say anything at dinner. She just put extra food on your plate and looked at the wall, and you both understood the arrangement without either of you having to say the words out loud. Your little brother asked why you don't play football with the other kids anymore. You told him you were busy. You stand on the corner, and you watch, and you wait, and you tell yourself this is temporary. And you almost believe it because you are 11 years old, and 11-year-olds are still capable of believing things that aren't true. Level 2. The Mule. You are 14, and you have been doing this for 3 years, and temporary has stopped feeling like a word that applies to your life. They move you up. Not because you asked, because you showed up every day without complaint and kept your mouth shut, and that is the only audition that matters in this organization. The corner was watching. This is moving, different skill set, same requirement, do not get caught, do not talk, do not ask what is in the bag. The bag weighs approximately 4 kilos. You carry it in a backpack between textbooks you stopped reading 8 months ago. You walk to the checkpoint on Calle Dos every Tuesday and Thursday morning, at the time when the soldiers are changing shifts and the overlap creates a gap in attention that somebody above you calculated a long time ago. You walk through that gap with your backpack and your school uniform, and your face set to the specific expression of bored indifference that says, I am a kid going somewhere unremarkable. The soldiers barely look at you. That is the entire strategy. You are invisible because you are supposed to be invisible. Because the people above you have studied the checkpoint and calculated the shift change and selected you specifically because a 14-year-old in a school uniform is the thing that military checkpoints are least equipped to treat as a threat. Your invisibility is not an accident. It is a resource that someone else is spending. You make the drop at a hardware store 3 blocks past the checkpoint. A man behind the counter takes the bag without making eye contact, puts it under the counter, and goes back to what he was doing. You wait. He comes back with an envelope. You put it in your front pocket and walk back the way you came. This month you have made 9 runs. The money is more than you know what to do with, so you hide most of it in a coffee tin under the loose board in your room that your mother doesn't know about, and you spend enough to look like the neighborhood rather than above it, because someone told you early that spending wrong is how people find you, and that has stayed with you. Your cousin got arrested doing this 2 years ago. He served 18 months in a juvenile facility and came out with a scar on his face and the specific kind of stillness that people carry when something has been removed from them that cannot be put back. He told you to stop. You nodded. You have made 6 runs since that conversation. He's not wrong about the risk. He's wrong about the math. A legitimate job at your age in this neighborhood pays enough to eat and not enough to live. This pays enough to live and occasionally enough to breathe. The difference between those two things is not something you can explain to someone who has never had to calculate it. You make the drop. You collect the envelope. You walk back. You are 14 years old, and you are somebody, and you know it, and the knowing is its own specific kind of dangerous. Level 3. The Sicario. You are 17, and there are 3 photographs in a drawer in a safe house that you are not allowed to keep but cannot make yourself throw away. Not of the people, of the locations, the street corners, the bodegas, the intersections where specific things happened at specific times that you were responsible for. You don't know why you kept them. You have thought about it. The closest you can get is that throwing them away felt like pretending it didn't happen, and pretending requires more energy than you have available. The first time was the hardest. Not emotionally, practically. Your hands shook badly enough that the first shot went wide and you had to adjust. And the adjustment took 2 seconds longer than it should have. And 2 seconds is an eternity in that situation. You didn't sleep for 4 days afterward. Not guilt exactly. More like your nervous system running an audit of what had just happened and not being able to file it in any existing category. By the third time, the category existed. They give you a photograph, an address, and a time. Sometimes a vehicle description, sometimes a pattern of movement they have already mapped. Your job is to show up at the right place at the right moment and be gone before anyone has processed what happened. You use motorcycles because motorcycles disappear into traffic. You use helmets because helmets are not faces. You use weapons you do not own that go to places you do not know about after the job is done. You are not cruel about it. That is something you decided early and have held to. You are not performing anything. You do the job and you leave. The men who enjoy it, who linger, who make it about something, those men have shorter careers. You have noticed this pattern and filed it. A job comes in. A photograph of a man you do not know. An address in a neighborhood 2 cities over. You study his schedule from the surveillance notes they provide. 3 days of his patterns. He goes to the same bakery every morning at 7:15, sits at the same table, reads the same newspaper, stays for exactly 40 minutes. Routine is the enemy of the person being found and the best friend of the person doing the finding. You know this from both sides now. The job takes 11 seconds. You are on the highway heading south before the ambulance is dispatched. You hand over the motorcycle at a garage in an industrial district, walk 4 blocks to a car that is registered to a name that does not exist, and drive home at the speed limit. At home, your mother has made dinner. She asks how your day was. You tell her it was quiet. You eat dinner, you help wash the dishes, you go to your room. The next morning, there is a new photograph waiting in the usual place. You look at it for a long time. Then you start planning. Level 4, the Plaza Boss. You are 22, and you run a neighborhood. Not the city, not the region, your neighborhood. 6 blocks in any direction from the corner where you stood at 11 years old with a prepaid phone and shoes that were separating at the sole. Those 6 blocks are yours now in a way that has nothing to do with paperwork and everything to do with the 23 people who answer to you and the particular quality of silence that falls on a street when you walk down it. Your job is balance, not violence. Not primarily. Violence is what balance looks like when it breaks down, and balance breaking down means you failed at your actual job, which is management. You have corner watchers and runners, and 2 sicarios you call when problems exceed what a conversation can solve. You collect money from businesses operating in your territory, a tax they pay for the stability your presence creates, which is a sentence that sounds strange from the outside and makes complete sense from the inside. You pay the police their weekly envelope. You pay it on time, because paying it on time means they continue to be reliably absent when absence is required. A family on Calle Ocho is 3 weeks behind. The rules are clear. 3 weeks behind has a standard response, but you know this family. The father drives a taxi. He has been sick for 6 weeks. His wife is working double shifts at the market. There are 2 children in primary school. This is not a family that is behind because they think they can be behind. This is a family that is behind because life applied arithmetic to them at a bad time. You extend the deadline. 2 more weeks. You add interest. You note it in the ledger. Your second-in-command says nothing, but his expression says something. You look at him until his expression changes. He understands. Mercy is not weakness. Mercy applied correctly is a long-term investment in a neighborhood that does not revolt. The family that gets the extension becomes the family that warns you when something is wrong on their street. That is the calculation, not sentiment. Your phone buzzes. A crew from the south has been selling in the 2 blocks closest to your boundary. Not inside your territory technically, but close enough that the message is clear. They are testing. Testing is a category of problem that requires a physical response or it becomes a habit. You get in the truck with 2 men. You don't go looking for violence. You go looking for the conversation that makes violence unnecessary. If that conversation works, everyone goes home. If it doesn't, you have the 2 men with you and a very clear memory of every lesson you learned between 11 and now. Territory isn't given. It is held. And the day you stop holding it, it starts belonging to someone else. Level 5. The operator. You are 27 and you have not touched product in 4 years. This is a promotion. At this level, touching product means something went wrong. Your job is infrastructure. The money that the product generates has to become something else. It has to become buildings and businesses and payroll and tax returns that tell a story to anyone who looks. A story that is technically accurate and entirely misleading. You have 3 accountants, 2 lawyers, and a shell company structure across 4 countries that took 8 months to build and produces clean money like a machine produces parts. Consistent, reliable. Auditable. The car wash on Avenida Principal has been operating for 3 years with a very healthy profit margin that would seem suspicious to anyone who knew how many cars it actually washes and is unremarkable to anyone who doesn't. The restaurant, the construction company, the import business. Each one staffed, each one operational, each one providing legitimate employment to people who go home at the end of their shift and do not know what their employer actually does. This is important. Plausible ignorance is a structural requirement. The DEA opened an investigation into the import business 6 weeks ago. You found out because a contact in the relevant government office sends you information on a monthly retainer that your accounting records describe as consulting fees. He is worth considerably more than his retainer. Within 48 hours of learning about the investigation, you had already begun the process of restructuring. The import business will cease to exist as a legal entity by the end of next month. Its assets will have moved to 3 new companies registered in different jurisdictions. By the time the investigators get the documents they requested, there will be nothing left to investigate except paperwork describing a company that no longer exists. You brief the regional chief over lunch at an actual restaurant you actually own and enjoy eating at. He nods. That nod is the most valuable thing you receive on any given day. It means you are indispensable, and indispensable means alive. The inverse of that sentence is something you think about late at night in the office when the staff have gone home and the only sound is the building settling and your own very clear understanding of what happens to people at this level. When they stop being indispensable. You have accounts in 4 countries that nobody in this organization knows about. You have 2 passports under names that do not connect to anything. You have an exit plan, 3 steps. Executable in 72 hours. You are not ready to use it yet. You are too good at this, and being too good at this means you are not replaceable yet. And not being replaceable yet means you are alive. The day someone else can do what you do is a day worth watching carefully. For now, you run the numbers. The numbers always work out. Level 6. The regional chief. You are 33 and you control a corridor. Not a neighborhood, not a city. A corridor. 300 kilometers of roads and rivers and mountain routes through which a specific percentage of everything that moves in this country moves on a schedule that your organization sets and enforces. 43 plaza bosses report to you. Military commanders in 2 departments receive quarterly payments. A judge in the circuit court has not issued a ruling against your organization's interests in 6 years. A deputy in the national government asks for your opinion on legislation twice a year over dinner at a private club where nobody takes photographs. This is not crime anymore. This is infrastructure. A shipment went missing last month. Not seized. Missing. There is a difference. Seized means the authorities found it. Missing means someone inside found it first. $22 million in product does not disappear without human assistance. You called a meeting of the plaza bosses in the affected corridor. They arrive nervous in the way that people arrive at meetings they are not sure they will leave. You watch their faces during the briefing. One of them watched the table. You did not accuse anyone. You explained the situation. You explained that someone in this room had information relevant to the situation. You explained that information shared voluntarily in the next 24 hours would be treated as a contribution to solving a problem. You explained what the alternative looked like, using language that was specific enough to be clear and general enough to be deniable. Within 12 hours, one of the other plaza bosses told you what he knew, which was enough. The man who watched the table is no longer a plaza boss. The replacement was installed by the following Tuesday. The corridor is running again. Your phone rings. It is the number above yours. They want a meeting. Your stomach does a specific thing that it does only when this number calls. A meeting with the people above you means one of two things. You are being elevated or you are being examined. The preparation for both is identical. You dress carefully. You review everything you have done in the past 6 months for anything that could be misread. You prepare answers for questions that haven't been asked yet. Because at this altitude, the fall is always fatal, and you have not climbed high enough yet to be safe. Level 7. The Lieutenant. You are 38, and you sit at the table where decisions are made. Not at the head, one chair to the left, but close enough that when the man at the head of the table looks for counsel, he looks at you first. That distance of one chair has taken 27 years to travel. It represents more than you have ever sat down and calculated, because calculating it would require a level of honesty that is not useful at this altitude. The DEA has a file on you. You know this because someone in the DEA has been on payroll for 4 years. The file is 43 pages. The photograph on the cover is 6 years old. They have your real name, your general location, and a rough organizational chart that is accurate about the structure and wrong about most of the specific personnel. They have been building a case for 3 years. Your lawyer says the case as currently constructed would likely fail in a Colombian court, says likely. You have not been outside your compound in 8 months. The compound has everything a person could want. Pool, garden, a kitchen with a chef who trained in Spain, a library with 4,000 books you have been meaning to read, a gym, a cinema. Your children visit on weekends, brought by a driver, escorted by security, and taken back the same way. They know their father is important and successful. They do not know the specific mechanics of how. You have arranged your life so that they do not need to know. Whether that is protection or deception is a question you have not answered. A rival organization has been moving into 3 of your territories. One lieutenant wants immediate escalation, maximum force, send a message that ends the conversation permanently. Another wants negotiation, divide the contested territories, formalize the boundary, stop the bleeding before it becomes something that both organizations cannot survive. The man at the head of the table has not spoken. His silence fills the room the way cold fills a room. Everyone at the table is performing the calculus of what he wants to hear, and whether what he wants to hear aligns with what they actually believe. You have seen men at this table give the wrong answer, and you know what the wrong answer looks like and what it costs. He looks at you. What do you think? It is not really a question, it is an examination, and the examination is not of your strategy, it is of your judgment. Your ability to read every person in this room simultaneously and synthesize what they need and what the organization needs and what the answer is that keeps you in this chair. You take your time. You look at each face around the table. Then you speak. Level 8. The boss. You built this. Not alone. You had timing. You had luck in the early years when luck was the difference between continuing and not continuing. But mostly you built this through the accumulation of correct decisions made under pressure over a period of time long enough that the correct decisions compounded into something structural. You are 44 years old. Your organization operates in 11 countries. It moves product in quantities that the official estimates get wrong by a factor that would embarrass the people who compile them. You have politicians in 6 governments. You have arrangements with 3 other major organizations that have held for 9 years, because the arrangement is more profitable than the alternative, and everyone at every level understands this. You have not been photographed in 7 years. There are people inside your own organization who have never seen your face. Myths are harder to kill than men. A raid made the news this morning. Your organization described as suffering a major blow. 14 arrests. 1.5 tons of products seized. The reporter delivered this information with the specific gravity of someone reporting something significant. You watched for 40 seconds and changed the channel. 14 people are replaceable. They will be replaced by next week. 1.5 tons is less than 2% of this month's movement. The raid represents an enormous investment of law enforcement resources and political capital to achieve a result that your organization will absorb without visible disruption. The people conducting the raid know this. The politicians taking credit know this. Everyone in this conversation knows this, and the conversation continues anyway, because stopping it would require acknowledging things that are not comfortable to acknowledge. You think about the men who came before you and occupied this chair, and how every single one of them ended in one of two places, a cell or a grave. You think about this not with fear exactly, but with the particular clarity that comes from having watched the pattern long enough to know it is a pattern and not an exception. You tell yourself you are different. You have the exit plans, 5 countries, accounts under names so deeply buried that you could not connect them to yourself in a courtroom if you tried. The legitimate businesses that have been operating long enough to be genuinely profitable, the life you have constructed in parallel that you have never lived but could live. But you are not going to use any of it. You know this at 3 in the morning in the compound when it is quiet enough to hear yourself think. You are not going to leave, because leaving would require surrendering the only identity you have built in 44 years. The corner kid from Medellin with the prepaid phone and the separating shoes does not have another identity available. He built this one from the ground up, using everything he had and everything he was willing to give. And the giving never stopped, and the building never stopped, and the only version of himself he has ever been is the one sitting in this compound, watching the news report about a raid that took 14 people and 1.5 tons, and feeling nothing. You remember the corner, the black SUV that slowed and kept moving, your thumb hovering over the call button, the moment before you knew what you were going to be. You were 11 years old. Now you run everything. The phone rings. You answer it. It is always something. It is always something. And you will always answer. And that is the only ending this story has ever been moving toward. And some part of you has known that since the first morning you stood on that corner in the shoes that were separating at the sole, watching, waiting, proving you wouldn't run. You never ran. Look where that got you.